Burnley 2, Manchester United 2. Another pretty terrible result for Manchester United and another opportunity missed. But actually a pretty decent, promising performance. There was sort of a blend of some of Ruben Amorim's ideas in there, also some of Darren Fletcher's ideas in there, and it made for a really dominant performance. United were by far the better team and should have won. So let's start off in the first phase, because this was where immediately we saw sort of two different ideas on display from United. Now, of course, the way you play in this part of the pitch is always going to be dictated by what the opposition do. And in the case of Burnley, they are a side in a relegation zone, not necessarily full of confidence, so there was a contrast to the way that they pressed. Sometimes they would be quite aggressive and get loads of men towards the ball. Sometimes they would be much more passive and allow United to play out from the back. What's more interesting to me is United's intentions in the first phase, because we saw some moments, particularly during the first 20 minutes, where United just played the ball long and opted to go over the Burnley press up towards someone like Benjamin Sesko. So this was one thing that we looked to do. I didn't feel this was too effective early on, and it sort of gave Burnley the opportunity to get their foot on the ball and get into the game. I thought we looked better a little bit after that spell, where we started to play out from the back, where we started to show a bit more patience. Now, in terms of the structure, the idea, it's quite simple. We've got two centre-backs, two ball-playing centre-backs, either side of the keeper. We've got two midfielders just dropping into this zone here, and then the two full-backs a little bit wider. But what I loved was that we trusted the likes of Lisandro Martinez, Luke Shaw, Heaven, all very, very technical players. We trusted them to try and solve problems in the first phase, and when we did that, we were actually quite effective getting out from the back. Now, any time United did manage to play through the first phase, Burnley would then pretty much just go incredibly passive and get lots of players behind the ball. We can see this was a game where Manchester United had a lot of possession, so the job is trying to break Burnley down by moving the ball with speed, by moving players with speed, by creating space, attacking space, all of that stuff. Now, what we saw initially when Manchester United was sort of trying to build up possession in this part of the pitch was a lot of different shapes on display from Manchester United. So the sort of base shape was a 2-4-3-1, a bit like what we can see here. We can see that rough shape taking idea. But in terms of where the players actually played on the pitch, there was license for them to move. There were moments where Dalot, for example, would tuck into a back three on the right side of defence, but in the next moment we could see Luke Shaw tucking into the back three. And I think immediately this is how you know United are in a back four as opposed to a back three, because there's more different players dropping into these zones. There were even situations where Ugarte, for example, would drop into the back three and Casemiro would play by himself in midfield, or even times where Casemiro would be literally all by himself with just two centre-backs behind him, and United would go more aggressive with the shape. So I thought that was an interesting idea. What United were always trying to do was pull these Burnley players about, try and force them to drop out of a position to try and create space a little bit higher. So that could be Cunha on the right dropping out, trying to draw people with him, and does that now allow us to find a pocket of space? That's what United were trying to do. Now, I think there was an inconsistency with the quality of our passing. I think there were moments where the first touch was poor, Cunha had a few of those, and again, you could still clearly see this was a slightly new idea for United. Over the past year or so, we've tended to play more wide rather than through the middle, so it takes some getting used to try and play this new system. But it was definitely something we focused on. Now, I would actually argue it went beyond that a little bit. I would argue United went as far as playing with minimum width. Now, there's a chance that's simply because of the personnel that we've got on the pitch. Dorgu always likes to come inside, and Cunha is an attack-minded player who wants to be involved, so he always likes to come inside. But I think, even Dalot and Shaw, they were joining the attack, don't get me wrong, they were getting forward, but they weren't necessarily hugging the touchline. So United were playing with a lot of players central, and the reason why you want to do this is to try and get all of these players as close to each other as possible, to try and get them in close proximity so they can combine on the edge of the penalty area and knit the ball through the middle of the pitch. It also allows you to bring the striker into the game much more. And we saw lots of situations where we were using the feet of Benjamin Sesko to sort of try and link up the play and move the team forward. So I thought this was good to see from United, trying to go through the opposition, sort of at the heart of Burnley. Like I said, the execution, the technical levels, the technical details were lacking at times, but I liked the idea of trying to hurt a team through the middle. So I'm back again, just asking if you guys could please subscribe to the channel. I'd love to hit 90,000 subscribers by the end of January, and I need your help. So if you are new around here, or if you enjoy the content, please just press subscribe. Now, the other thing that I liked about this performance was the glimpses of speed, but I would say this was a little bit inconsistent. I think early on, again, in particular, United felt quite slow on the ball. We felt quite lethargic. The players didn't look sharp, to be honest. Even Bruno, he just doesn't look quite fully fit. There's other players who have played a lot of football recently, or some of the subs that haven't played a lot of football, and that does affect the way that the team play. But it felt a little bit lethargic. I think the players have to do better in that regard. I think they have to be sharper on the ball. If you want to, finish in the top 4 in the Premier League, you've got to be sharp in these games. And United weren't always. But there were moments where we were. There were moments where we could play quicker. And that's because players were willing to go off the ball, willing to make runs in behind. And then the deep players were given that license to try and find them. So yes, we want to play short where possible and move the ball through the pitch. But we could also go over the opposition. And, there's that brilliant moment where Bruno Fernandes runs in behind. The pass from Lisandro Martinez is just amazing. The touch from Bruno is phenomenal. He just doesn't quite get the goal. But I like that idea. Yes, focusing through the middle, but then in the next moment, you're going to play a long ball over the top. And, for the opposition, that just constantly keeps them guessing. They don't know whether to come towards the ball to apply pressure or to drop off to deal with the ball in behind. That's how you hurt the opposition, by forcing them into these split-second decisions. Again, here, Lisandro Martinez on the ball, pinging one over the top for Patrick Dorgu. I thought Licher defensively had a bit of a mare, but I think on the ball, you could see what he was trying to do. He was always on the front foot. Every first touch was forward and trying to get United to play with a little bit of speed. And I think that speed was also seen at times out wide. Now, I know we've just spoken about minimum width, lots of players central, but naturally there are going to be moments in a game. If the ball is played this wide, players are going to drop into these positions. But I liked some of the wide combination play from United. I thought we were trying, again, to move the ball quite quickly down the sides of the pitch. That obviously led to one of the goals, but other moments as well where United had good opportunities. Now, again, there's a big balance issue here with taking risks and not taking risks. There's times when you've got to look after the ball, when you've got to slow it down and keep it. And then there's other times where you've got to speed it up. I think United lacked that. We lacked sort of the understanding of the tempo, of the rhythm. The midfield, I think Ngate was okay on the ball, but Casemiro didn't have a very good game, nor defensively. He was just poor in this one. But there was that slight, inability to read the tempo of the game and the rhythm properly. But again, the idea of trying to play quick, the idea of trying to play through, trying to play over, also trying to combine wide, I think is something good to see because it's sort of a multi-threat United. Now, the final thing that I want to touch on is just the mindset of actually wanting the win in this game. It was great to see United playing on the front foot, even at 2-1 up, bringing attackers onto the pitch. And when we were level, rather than sort of protecting what we've got, taking a point, defending deep, we were on the front foot. And Fletcher was very aggressive with his substitutes. I mean, this is the 11 that we ended up with. Kobbie Mainoo and Mason Mount playing as a double pivot. Shea Lacey on the right wing, 2 forwards up front. That was good to see United being an attacking team, a team that wanted to go for the kill. Now, again, we have to think long term. We can question the balance of this 11 a little bit, right? It's a little bit off balance now. But again, if we're talking about mindset, idea, intentions, which we've focused on for so many weeks now, more than the shape, more than the formation, it's about how you want to play. What is your idea? Fletcher's idea in this game was to be attacking. And, we saw the benefit of that. Rather than having a fullback providing the width on the right side, we saw Shea Lacey come on and nearly produce just one of the great Manchester United moments. It would have been an incredible goal if Lacey had scored. But I think it's, again, the mindset that he plays with, right? He's an attacker, so the second he gets on the pitch, he wants to make stuff happen. And that's what United had from the bench. I think Sesko had a mixed night. There were moments where his technicals were lacking a little bit, but I think what Fletcher will be happy with is that we got our striker the ball a lot. He had loads of shots, loads of opportunities. Of course, we want to see him scoring a little bit more. I think I almost want to see more desire, more desperation to score. But his movement for the 2 goals are fantastic, and I might cover that on the channel at some point. But again, it's good to see that we got our striker service. We want to see him scoring more goals. Of course we do. But he got the ball. He got the ball. He made runs and he was rewarded by being given the ball. And I think that was good from United. We may not have got the final result, but I think we wanted to. We wanted to try and play on the front foot. So that was sort of a refreshing change for me. Now, hopefully in this video, I've provided a nice sort of balanced assessment of what happened. I think there were some good ideas, some good intentions. I also think there were things that were wrong and just lacking. This wasn't suddenly perfect. It wasn't like, oh my God, Amarim's gone and now we are the best team in the world. It wasn't a case of that. but it didn't need to be. I don't think this is United needing to prove Amorim right or wrong. It's Manchester United needing to play good football and win football matches. We failed to win the match, so ultimately, in that respect, it was a failure. In the short term, it was a very bad result again. Another massive missed opportunity. But I think you can see the intentions were better, and I like to see that at this football club. I do think the way that we play is important for me personally. I want to see a certain type of football, and I think we saw it in this game. United taking risks, United moving the ball forward, United combining, United going through the middle, penetrating the middle of the pitch, runners in behind, wide play, and then those attacking substitutes. That for me felt very Manchester United. It was a sustained, very dominant performance. United were by far the better team, 10 times the amount of XG of Burnley, but we didn't get the result, so it ends in disappointment. But some good stuff for us there as well. So a mixed night once again, which seems to be the theme for Manchester United this season, but at least entertainment, so I enjoyed that. But I think apart from that, that is all I want to cover for this particular match. So we're going to wrap the video up there. Thank you guys very much for watching this one. I hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.